Well, here we are, all the way to lesson 4. We'll ask the question, does health matter? This week we're going to be looking at our current health and where we think we'd like it to be. I think most of us feel that there's something that we can do to be even healthier, even if we feel fairly healthy already. In lesson 3, we talked about our sexual health. This week, I'm going to talk about movement or exercise, our food, general physical health, and other topics that just might come up in the middle of this. So when we talk about health, we're talking about so many different aspects of our lives. I recently watched an interview, Dr. Howard Elkin, who is a cardiologist, and he talked about the 5 dimensions of health: physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, and social well-being. So in this lesson, I'm going to be focusing on our physical well-being. In possible future courses, I could concentrate on aspects of maybe some of the other 4 dimensions. So what's the first thing you think of when someone uses the word health in a conversation? For many, it could be exercise. Others might think of diet first. A few might think about mental health, if not at first, then eventually. If you've recently had an illness, or if COVID is still on your mind, or if you have a chronic illness, then you might think of general physical health right away. So let's begin with one aspect of our physical well-being that we all hold near and dear to our hearts, and that's food. It's a fact that we can only live so long without food, that some of us live to eat rather than eat to live. In a website for addiction professionals, I read that 13% of those people who are between the ages of 50 and 80 show signs of addiction to highly processed foods. It's amazing that they've lived that long with such an unhealthy addiction. I'm not going to recommend any specific diet. You can read all about any one of them that you choose, but most tend to be somewhat healthy, no matter which food plan you use. I think we can all agree on certain aspects of what's good for us and what's bad for us. But every body responds in a different way. So after diligent research, I ask you to choose the plan that seems to be most beneficial for your body. One day I was complaining to my oldest child, my daughter, that I was concerned about which food plan I should go on. Like many people, I've explored everything from Atkins to Weight Watchers, keto to vegan, and more. But her response was, "Mom, at your age, I think you can eat just about anything you want to." But I don't agree with her entirely. As we grow older, nutrition is something that we need to pay closer attention to if we want to continue living a healthy life into our 90s or our 100s. If you're satisfied to die younger than that, then please eat whatever you want. But if you enjoy the life you have and want it to last a little longer, then look at what your body needs and eat accordingly. I think we can all agree that we need a few carbohydrates, mostly a variety of fresh vegetables and fruits, that we need protein in some form, but not necessarily always in meat, that we need a certain amount of good fat each day. Those are the big 3 macros. Depending on your taste buds, you will probably choose between several different food plans. One medical fact that I find over and over is that reduced caloric intake helps us to live longer. Fewer calories per day. So whichever food plan you choose, you might want to think in terms of reducing your overall calories. I find that as I grow older, I don't eat quite as much as I always did. But I don't worry about it. I just make sure that I get a good combination of healthy foods. Certain foods are known to give us a shorter life expectancy. Food like sugary products, over-processed foods, too much alcohol, deep-fried foods. You know what they are. As much as I try to stay away from those that I know aren't good for me, I'm afraid I do indulge a little bit from time to time. Almost all food plans I read about recommend intermittent fasting. It's something that I do regularly, about once a week, actually. Look it up online and read about it. I plan my once-a-week fasting on a day when I don't have a hectic schedule, like the octopus in the picture, with too many things going on at once. I use that as a time to meditate, to contemplate my life, and during those days, I might warm up a cup of chicken broth occasionally, but not often, and absolutely no fruit juice because there's too many calories. Doesn't help a fasting. Our systems need a break from constant input of food. It's kind of like giving our guts a chance to relax and take a nap. And like my daughter said, at my age, I really can't allow myself to eat anything. But I also know that at my age, I want to live even longer, basically disease-free and relatively healthy. Ending my life in misery because I didn't take care of myself earlier seems like a no-brainer to me. Thank goodness the experts have determined that coffee is good for you, and it does increase our chances for longevity. In addition to coffee, I drink tea, both regular teas and herbal teas, lots of water, and just very occasionally I'll have a glass of milk. I'd rather eat a nice piece of fruit than to drink the juice, again, because of the difference in calories and the sugar. There's a certain amount of satisfaction in chewing something, savoring the flavor of that piece of fruit. And, of course, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Older adults tend to have less appetite and consume fewer calories, and yet they need more nutritional content in what they do eat. So that could be a very difficult balance to achieve. It takes diligence on your part as you're growing older. For example, I've increased my daily protein intake and I've cut back on my carbohydrate intake. And that combination helps to regulate my blood glucose. So beyond food, exercise is another important aspect of health. Going to the gym or exercising in the morning for an hour doesn't do a bit of good if you come home and sit for the rest of the day. You need to intersperse periods of sitting with periods of activity throughout the day. I spend too much time at the computer, but I need to. But my watch tells me when it's time to stand up and move. I get at least 12 of those hints in each 24-hour period. Besides, I've heard that exercise is known to make sex better. A recent article in New York Times gives a 10-minute workout to do at home without any equipment, and you can look online and find similar articles anywhere. But what if you're physically unable to exercise? First thing to do is to consider whatever disability you have and find something for the parts of you that do work. I have nerve damage in my left leg, so my legs don't work too well. Even though I consider walking to be one of the most valuable exercises anyone can do, it's not necessarily one of my abilities. I still do take out my walker, and I do as much walking as I can. I also go to the gym regularly, and I do a lot of weight training. I'm fairly strong in my upper body, and it's important to keep up that strength. I want to be able to lift a travel case up into the overhead on a plane from all my traveling. I refuse to consider myself as disabled. Vision is something that we tend to take for granted, isn't it? I've worn glasses since I was in 4th grade. I've had cataract surgery in both eyes. I've had retinal problems, and I put drops in my eye every night because of glaucoma. So maintaining my ability to read is very high on my list. and I would ask you to plan for regular eye exams. Dental issues often come up during this time of our lives, and poor dental care can affect our general health. Finding a good hygienist here on my island is difficult, but practice good dental health at home. My dentist hasn't had a hygienist for nearly a year. Make sure that you keep regular appointments with your dentist for whatever reason. Hearing can certainly become a problem. About 5 years ago, I was visiting friends in Tucson, and we were out for dinner, and one of the men said, "Of the 8 of us sitting here, you're the only one without hearing aids." I didn't realize that. If you went to a lot of loud concerts in your younger years, you might notice that your hearing sort of begins to fade as you get older. And like so much in the health category, all of it begins when you're younger. You can't wait until you're in your 50s or 60s to start your healthy living lifestyle. But none of the typical problems that might develop as we get older should lessen your gusto at all. To me, gusto means that we keep on keeping on, no matter what else is going on in our lives, or what health issues we face. Our gusto is on the inside, and it pushes us to keep going. Most of the older people that I know have learned that keeping themselves as healthy as possible, not succumbing to self-pity, ignoring what other people think that we should or should not do, helps to keep them on the path of longevity and gusto. There may be areas of general health that I've neglected in this lesson, but Dr. Google can do a great job of helping you out if there are specific health issues that you want to learn more about. Dr. Howard Elkin, that I mentioned earlier, says to be your own advocate. Don't just do what a doctor tells you to do. Always ask questions. Look it up and explore. Refuse to take a specific medicine or follow a certain procedure just because the doctor told you to. Find out everything you can about it, and above all, ask lots of questions about anything that you don't understand. And if your doctor won't answer to your satisfaction, find another doctor. I've always chosen to go to a DO, or doctor of osteopathy, or an osteopath, for my general physician, because they tend to be a bit more holistic and natural in their approach. The one I see here takes almost an hour with me, and I see her every 4 weeks regularly. When I need something that she cannot cover, she always can refer me to a specialist, and I trust her judgment. I imagine that I've neglected a lot of health topics in this lesson, but feel free to email me if there's something specific that you'd like to know. I do what I can to answer, or I send you somewhere to find the answer. And I keep files of thousands of articles about all kinds of health issues. One of my favorite people is Helen Mirren, an actress born in London, England in 1945. Her comment about aging: your 40s are good, your 50s are great, your 60s are fab, and 70 is freaking awesome. And she is still tops in her field. But before you close this lesson, I'd like for you to check out the information on the next slide, because I'm going to tell you about the next e-course that I'll teach here on Learn with Lucy. Have you ever wondered how you ended up with the personality that you have? We all have different personalities, but there are a few elements of personality that are similar among everyone. So in the next 6-week online course, we're going to discuss the question, what's your personality? And it'll probably begin somewhere around mid-March. Our next week's lesson here is on creativity and how to maintain or to increase it as you grow older. In the meantime, go out there and stay or get healthy. Hui ho.